Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Yami and these are the headlines. Pakistan's intelligence agencies have thwarted a major cyber attack by the Indian agencies. In a statement, Pakistan's military's media wing says the attack involves a range of cyber crimes, including hacking personal mobiles and technical gadgets of the government officials and the military personnel. Pakistan Army says it has further enhanced necessary measures to foil such activities, including action against violators of SOPs on cybersecurity. Meanwhile, Pakistan has lodged a strong protest with India on a blasphemous social media post in southern Karnataka state. In a statement, the Foreign Office said the offensive post against Islam has hurt the sentiment of Muslims and reflects the rising Islamophobia in India. It said instead of preventing hate crime against Muslims, Indian police used brute force to kill 3 Muslims protesting against the post. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani says US efforts to extend UN arms embargo on Tehran will fail. In a televised speech, Rouhani warned if such a resolution is passed at the UN Security Council, its initiators will be responsible for the consequences. Rouhani's remarks come after the US circulated a revised resolution that would extend a UN arms embargo on Iran indefinitely. In Afghanistan, the government says at least 6 policemen have been killed and 5 others wounded in a Taliban attack in the eastern province of Nangarhar. In a statement, the provincial governor said 3 Taliban fighters were also killed as security forces repulsed the attack. The Taliban have not commented on the incident. Iran has recorded 188 more COVID-19 fatalities over the past 24 hours, bringing the death toll to nearly 19,000. In India, 834 more died, while 61,000 tested positive for the virus overnight. Pakistan has reported 17 deaths and 730 new cases, taking the tally of active infections to nearly 16,600. Globally, the number of deaths has exceeded 742,000, with over 20.3 million infections. And in sports, the 2020 Paris Marathon has become the latest event to be cancelled due to disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Organizers say they tried everything to maintain the event but had to call it off because of the difficulties faced by the runners. The marathon was originally due to take place on 5th of April but was postponed because of the pandemic. Those are the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Pakistan's intelligence agencies have thwarted a major cyber attack by the Indian agencies. In a statement, Pakistan military's media wing said the attack involves a range of cyber crimes, including hacking personal mobiles and technical gadgets of the government officials and the military personnel. Pakistan Army said it has further enhanced necessary measures to foil such activities, including action against violators of SOPs on cybersecurity. It said various targets of hostile intelligence agencies are being investigated. The military wing said an advisory is also being sent to all the government departments for identifying lapses and enhancing respective cybersecurity measures. Pakistan has lodged a strong protest with India on the blasphemous social media post in southern Karnataka state. In a statement, the Foreign Office said the offensive post against Islam has hurt the sentiment of Muslims and reflects the rising Islamophobia in India. It said instead of preventing hate crime against Muslims, Indian police used brute force to kill 3 protesters. It said rising incidents of religious hate crime in India are a direct and inescapable consequences of the extremist ideology of Hindutva. Earlier, 3 people were killed after police opened fire on Muslims protesting the blasphemous post in Karnataka. Police arrested more than 110 demonstrators and imposed a curfew in the area. They've also detained the accused, who is the relative of a Congress politician. Last year, the Indian government enacted a controversial citizenship law, sparking violent protests across the country. Meanwhile, Indian troops have martyred another civilian in occupied Kashmir. The occupying forces killed the youth during a cordon and search operation in the Kamarzipura area of the Pulwama district. The troops have sealed all the entry and exit points of the area. Indian atrocities in occupied territories have sharply increased despite the COVID-19 outbreak. The occupation troops have killed over 200 Kashmiris since India stripped the region of its autonomy last year in August and imposed a curfew. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says the country will continue to play a facilitating role for regional peace and stability. The Foreign Minister said this while talking to outgoing Afghan Ambassador to Pakistan, Atif Mishal. Qureshi said Pakistan has reiterated its support for the war-torn country's peace and reconciliation process. He said durable peace in the region is linked to peace in Afghanistan. The Foreign Minister said the inter-Afghan dialogue will pave the way for sustainable peace in Afghanistan. For his part, the Afghan ambassador thanked the foreign minister for good wishes. In Afghanistan, the government says at least 6 policemen have been killed and 5 others wounded in a Taliban attack in the eastern province of Nangarhar. In a statement, the provincial governor said 3 Taliban fighters were also killed as security forces repulsed the attack. The Taliban have not commented on the incident. The violence comes on the heels of intra-Afghan talks expected to begin in Qatar this week. Now, Iran says the United States will fail in its attempts to extend a UN arms embargo on Tehran. President Hassan Rouhani's remarks came after the US circulated a revised resolution that would extend the embargo indefinitely. In a televised speech, Rouhani warned if such a resolution is passed by the UN Security Council, it will have consequences. On Tuesday, Washington streamlined its bid to win more support in the 15-member UNSC, but Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said he is certain that the Security Council will reject the resolution. The weapons embargo ends in October under Iran's 2015 nuclear deal with 6 world powers. Moving on, Israel says its warplanes have targeted multiple locations in the Gaza Strip. No casualties have been reported so far. The Defense Ministry said it struck Hamas's posts in response to explosive balloons launched from Gaza. This is third such attack in a week carried out by the Israeli forces. Iraq has cancelled the Turkish defense minister's visit to the country following the killing of 2 border guards and a soldier in a drone strike near the Iran border. Turkey's defense minister Hulusi Akar was scheduled to visit Baghdad on Thursday, but his visit was cancelled in response to the attack. Earlier, Iraq's foreign ministry summoned the Turkish envoy to protest the attack. Meanwhile, Turkey says it has killed 2 militants of the Kurdistan Workers' Party in Iraq's Zab region. Turkey regularly carries out attacks against the militants who have bases in northern Iraq. Germany says Lebanon needs a government to fight corruption and enact reforms in order to win back the trust of the people. Foreign Minister Heiko Maas has arrived in Beirut with a relief check of $1.2 million, part of Berlin's total aid of $23.5 million. During the explosion-hit port, Maas said the international community is ready to invest in Lebanon, but needs securities for these investments. The foreign minister said many European countries have a lot of interest in Lebanon, but they need to know about reforms. Meanwhile, Beirut's port has resumed partial operations to secure goods for local markets. Reacting to the port's operationalization, the World Food Programme said it will send a 3-month supply of wheat, flour, and grain to the country.
85% of all the food brought into Lebanon comes through that port. And it's critical that we get it operational again. So we're bringing in mobile cranes as well as mobile warehousing, forklifts, you name it, everything necessary to get it operational again.
And now China has accused the US of fueling an ideological conflict and reviving the Cold War in the 21st century. In an interview, Vice Foreign Minister Li Yucheng said Washington is harassing Chinese scientists, students, and journalists in the US. The Vice Foreign Minister said the US likes to preach international law, but puts itself above it under the guise of American exceptionalism. In the United States, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden has picked Senator Kamala Harris as his choice for vice president. Biden said he was honored to name Harris as his number 2, describing her as a fearless fighter and one of the finest public servants. The former California Attorney General is the first black woman and Asian American appointed on a major presidential ticket in U.S. history. In a tweet, Harris said Biden has the ability to unify the country, but her nomination took President Donald Trump by surprise.
Very, very nasty. One of the reasons that surprised me, she was probably nastier than even Pocahontas to Joe Biden. She was very disrespectful to Joe Biden, and it's hard to pick somebody that's that disrespectful. When she said things during the debates, during the Democrat primary debates, that were horrible about Sleepy Joe, and I would think that he wouldn't have picked.
Iran has recorded 188 more COVID-19 fatalities over the past 24 hours, bringing the death toll to nearly 19,000. Globally, the number of deaths has exceeded 741,000 with over 20.3 million infections. More in this report.
While the world awaits WHO's approval of Russia's COVID-19 vaccine, thousands continue to die every day. Overwhelmed healthcare facilities and tumbling economy are exhausting the resources of Latin America to fight the pandemic. Brazil's Piranha Technology Institute has announced it is in talks with Russia for acquiring its newly registered vaccine. But US's top infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci sounded skeptical over the Russian claim.
Half a dozen or more vaccines. So if we wanted to take the chance of hurting a lot of people or giving them something that doesn't work, we could start doing this, next week if we wanted to. But that's not the way it works. So I hope, but I haven't heard any evidence to make me feel that's the case. I hope that the Russians have actually definitively proven that the vaccine is safe and effective.
New cases in Europe have prompted German authorities to issue a partial travel warning for Spain's Madrid and the Basque region. Over in Australia, the sudden spike in cases in Victoria State has dampened the hopes of the situation stabilizing anytime soon. While cluster infections in Melbourne have forced the authorities to impose a night curfew, New Zealand appears to have celebrated zero COVID status way too early as the virus returns to the island nation and it locks down Auckland.
We're down here to protect our common law rights, our rights of freedoms of movement, freedom of expression, freedom of contact with other people. These rights have been protected for generations and we're just not willing to let them go. We're simply not going to comply with lockdown restrictions and we don't consent to the authoritarian responses.
The UN's International Labour Organization has voiced serious concerns over career prospects for youth under the slowed down economies and vanishing jobs.
Moreover, the novel coronavirus continues surging in India, where 834 people have died, while 61,000 tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. The Health Ministry says the death toll has crossed 46,000, while infections count is over 2.3 million. There are 644,000 active cases in the country, comprising over 27% of the total caseload. The Maharashtra state continues to be the worst hit, with over 535,000 confirmed cases. New Delhi's attempts to recoup a declining economy has waned as the massive surge has ruled out any immediate change of economic revival. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 17 more people have lost their lives to COVID-19 in the past 24 hours, with the death toll crossing 6,100. The Health Ministry says 730 cases were reported overnight, pushing the tally to more than 285,000 infections so far. The ministry said more than 263,000 people have recovered across the country. It said there are over 16,000 active cases in the country, among which 785 are in critical condition. Sindh remains the worst hit province with over 124,000 infections, while Punjab has reported more than 94,000 cases. Turkey says it wants to resolve the dispute with Greece over energy exploration in the eastern Mediterranean through dialogue. In a statement, Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said Ankara wants to reach political solutions through peaceful means in line with the international laws. But he warned the country will defend its rights and interests in the region. Turkey and Greece are at odds over overlapping claims of hydrocarbon resources in the region. Tensions escalate on Monday after Turkey launched exploration operations in a disputed area of the Mediterranean. Athens says Ankara's exploration vessel is operating illegally in waters which fall in Greece's continental shelf, while Turkey dismisses these allegations. Ukraine has formally requested the extradition from Belarus of 28 alleged Russian mercenaries detained by Minsk's security forces. The Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office said Kiev suspects the men of fighting with the Russia-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine. It said the contractors will face a criminal probe in Ukraine once they are handed over to Kiev authorities. In July, Belarus arrested the men and said they sought to destabilize the country's presidential election. Officials in Kiev said 9 of those arrested also have Ukrainian citizenship. Russia denies it uses mercenaries and has said that the men were traveling through Belarus on their way to other countries. Sweden says European Union foreign ministers will discuss sanctions on Belarus in an extraordinary meeting on Friday. In an interview, Sweden's foreign minister Ann Linde said she has received summons for the meeting on Belarus unrest. More than 1,000 people were arrested during protests over controversial election results that declared Alexander Lukashenko winner. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell said the Council is monitoring the situation after opposition leader challenged the results and fled to Lithuania. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said crackdown on freedoms and rights by the Belarusian authorities is unacceptable. More stories you follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Pakistan's Foreign Office has said that the country shares strong historic and fraternal relations with Saudi Arabia and all other OIC member states. At a briefing last week, Foreign Office spokesperson Aisha Faruqi said Pakistan is the founding member of the Saudi-led Organization of Islamic Cooperation. The OIC contact group has convened 3 meetings on the Kashmir issue backed by Riyadh during the last 1 year. Let's have a look on brotherly ties between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia in this report.
Saudi Arabia and Pakistan maintain close and robust political, military and economic relations rarely found in the history of global camaraderie. The kingdom strongly supported Pakistan in its wars with India in 1965 and 1971. Since the 1970s, Pakistan has been providing training to Saudi soldiers and pilots.
Pakistan-Saudi's relationship has been fantastic. Pakistan and GCC relationship has been excellent. They have helped you financially, they have helped you politically, they have helped you diplomatically, they have helped you morally.
The two countries also work together extensively at the international level within the framework of several regional and global organizations, including the OIC. The Saudi-led OIC has always supported Pakistan's stance on the Kashmir dispute with India.
Saudi Arabia is an important country for Pakistan. Pakistan has always aspired to have good relations with all Muslim countries, irrespective of their domestic policies or their policies towards other countries. The concept of Ummah, because Pakistan was created as homeland for Muslims in South Asia, the concept of Ummah was very deeply ingrained in Pakistani psyche.
Over the years, the two countries succeeded in developing a unique synergy for mutual development and prosperity, and they seek to take it further.
In Scotland, several people have been injured and casualties are feared in a passenger train derailment on the country's east coast. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon declared the incident extremely serious. She said the government will do everything to support the emergency services and families. About 30 emergency service vehicles, including an air ambulance, have been called on the scene. In a tweet, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson also expressed his sadness over the incident and said his thoughts were with all those affected. In Mali, police have fired tear gas and water cannon to disperse hundreds of protesters who spent the night in a square in the capital Bamako. Thousands had gathered at Independence Square after the opposition resumed protests demanding President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita's resignation. Opposition leaders have been leading the protests against the alleged government corruption and incompetence since June. Regional leaders have been trying to de-escalate the situation that worsened in July when police shot dead 11 protesters. But their call went in vain. Mali has been plagued by an 8-year conflict that began as a separatist movement in the north. The UN says 127 people have been killed, wounded during a weekend clashes between South Sudan's army and armed civilians in Warab state. UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric said violence between the army and armed civilians ensued over disagreement over disarmament of civilians. The disarmament of civilians is part of the most recent peace agreement signed between South Sudanese President Salva Kiir and his rival Riek Machar. South Sudan's military spokesman Roy Kwang said 55 security personnel and 26 civilians were among those dead. Russia has dismissed mounting international concern over the safety of its locally developed COVID-19 vaccine as absolutely groundless. On Tuesday, President Vladimir Putin said Russia had become the first country to grant a regulatory approval to a vaccine. In an interview, Russia's health minister Mikhail Murashko said allegations were driven by competition. He added that the first packages of the vaccine will be available within the next 2 weeks, primarily for doctors. Earlier, experts in Germany, France, Spain and the US raised concerns about the speed of Moscow's work. Russia's coronavirus case tally has risen to over 900,000 after the country reported more than 5,000 new infections. Authorities said 129 fatalities were recorded in the last 24 hours, taking the official death toll past 15,000. Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro has denied the existence of fires in the Amazon rainforest, calling it a lie despite government data suggesting otherwise. At a meeting of Amazon countries, Bolsonaro said the group must combat disinformation about the fires with correct statistics. The right-wing president said Amazon is a wet forest and it does not catch fire, as he accused the media of presenting a false narrative. Earlier, the country's National Space Agency said fires in Amazon hit a 9-year high in 2019. Foreign pressure is mounting on Brazil to protect the world's largest rainforest due to the vast amount of carbon dioxide that it absorbs. Google says it will start detecting earthquakes around the world using the accelerometer sensors in Android phones. In a statement, the company said it will begin warning residents of California about expected turbulence with the rollout of quake alerting technology.
Google says California, Japan, and Mexico already have warning systems that give people seconds to protect themselves before shaking reaches them. It said Indonesia and other countries with less cash for traditional sensors could catch up if the company's product proves effective. Seismology experts said turning smartphones into mini seismographs marked a huge advancement. Over 2.5 billion devices, including some tablets, run Google's Android operating system. Google's principal software engineer, March Strogaitis, said there are hundreds of millions of people that live near the earthquake fault zones. He said if people can get an early notice that an earthquake is coming towards them, they can protect themselves. According to Google, alerts would trigger for earthquakes of magnitudes 4.5 or greater. Meanwhile, the company said systems will not work in China, where Google's Play Services software is blocked.
The world is celebrating the United Nations International Youth Day today. This year's theme, Youth Engagement for Global Action, highlights that youth's engagement is enriching national and multilateral institutions. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called on global leaders to ensure safe and dignified lives for young people. The UN has also launched a social media campaign, 31 Days of Youth, to celebrate young people throughout the month of August. The UN thanked young men and women who are playing key roles amid the pandemic. The UN General Assembly declared August the 12th as the International Youth Day in 1999. A Pakistani documentary film has won an award at the Indus Valley International Film Festival. Ajoka Theatre's internationally acclaimed film, Pakistan's Best Kept Secret, focuses on Lahore Museum. The documentary was given UTC Special Mention Award. Ajoka's chairperson, Zara Salman, said the film has helped increase awareness about the Lahore Museum and Pakistan's rich heritage. The festival was organized by the South Asian Forum for Culture and Creative Heritage. The event featured documentary films from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Iran, and Maldives. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. The UK economy has officially fallen into recession for the first time in 11 years due to the impact of coronavirus pandemic. The 20.4% contraction in the second quarter is the largest reported by any major economy so far. The Office for National Statistics said the economy grew by 8.7% in June as government restrictions started to ease. But a resurgence of the coronavirus cases and lower buying power led to overall contraction during the second quarter. The UK has so far reported more than 46,000 deaths due to COVID-19 and over 313,000 infections. Wall Street main indices have jumped from a sharp reversal in the previous session that led the S&P 500 to snap a 7-day winning streak, but some investors were cautious following a stalemate over the new coronavirus relief bill. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained about 1%, while the S&P 500 has risen by over 1%. The Nasdaq Composite Index is trading higher by nearly 2%. Meanwhile, oil prices rose after an industry report showed U.S. crude inventories fell more than analysts had expected. And in sports, the 2020 Paris Marathon has become the latest event to be cancelled due to the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The marathon was originally due to take place on the 5th of April, but was postponed because of the pandemic. The Berlin and New York marathons are among others that will not take place this year. Last week, it was announced that London Marathon will go ahead on 4th of October, but only involve elite athletes. FIFA has postponed the Asian qualifiers for the 2022 World Cup until next year because of the coronavirus pandemic. The decision has been jointly taken by FIFA and the Asian Football Confederation. The qualifiers for the 2022 Qatar World Cup were originally scheduled for October and November. FIFA and AFC will work together to pick new dates for the qualifying matches. The football's governing body said qualifiers for the Asia Cup China 2023 will be held next year. Both region-wide tournaments had begun early in the year before pandemic control measures put them to a halt. Sevilla beat Wolverhampton Wanderers by 1-0 at the MSV Arena to reach the Europa League semi-finals. Sevilla midfielder Lucas Ocampos headed in a late goal to snatch a victory for the 5-time winners. Goalkeeper Bono saved a penalty from Wolves forward Raul Jimenez in the 13th minute as Julian Lopetegui's side took control. The Spaniards will now face Manchester United in the last four in Cologne on Sunday. In the other quarter-final, Ukrainian champions Shakhtar Donetsk beat Swiss club FC Basel by 4-1 at the Valentines Arena. Brazilian quartet of Junior Moraes, Tyson, Alan Patrick and Dodo scored for the Ukrainians, while Ricky van Wolfswinkel grabbed a consolation for Basel. Aqsa Mushtaq, an English striker of Pakistani origin, has joined the Italian club Napoli. The club said Aqsa joined the Italian side from Illinois Rhine University in the US. Born to a Pakistani couple in Bradford, Aqsa represented Bradford City Ladies in Women's Premier League North before moving to the US. The midfielder secured a sports-based scholarship at Illinois Rhine in 2016. She was included in the All-SAC first team in 2018 after scoring 5 goals and 4 assists during the season. The midfielder says she wants to become a role model for the next generation of Asian women who want to pursue professional sports. In the National Basketball Association, Portland Trail Blazers beat Dallas Mavericks by 134 points to 131 at the Biosecure Bubble in Disney World. Damian Lillard scored a career-high 61 points. Lillard is the first ever player in Portland to score 50-plus points in consecutive games. Meanwhile, Devin Booker had 35 points and 9 rebounds as Suns beat the Philadelphia 76ers by 130 points to 117. In another clash, Milwaukee Bucks thrashed Washington Wizards by 126 to 113. And now the weather situation from around the globe. That is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.